The last choice. The blinking red light on Sarah Foster's desk wasn't supposed to be blinking. Not at 3 a.m., and certainly not on the most remote deep space monitoring station humanity had ever built. She blinked hard, wondering if 18 months of isolation had finally cracked her sanity. The light continued its urgent pulse. "Computer, status report," she called out, her voice rough from disuse. Living alone at Outpost Theta 9, monitoring the edge of known space, didn't require much talking. "Unknown vessel detected," the Heir responded. "Configuration does not match any known human or previously encountered designs. Size estimate: approximately 3 Earth kilometers in length." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. 3 kilometers. That was bigger than anything humanity had ever built. "Show me." The holographic display sprang to life, revealing a ship that defied conventional design. It looked almost organic, with sweeping curves and structures that seemed to pulse with an inner light. But what caught Sarah's attention wasn't its size or strange beauty. It was the obvious damage along its port side. "Life signs?" she asked, already reaching for her emergency protocols manual. "Multiple. Estimated 2,000 entities. Biosignatures are complex. Unable to provide accurate species analysis." Sarah ran her fingers through her short black hair, a nervous habit she'd never managed to break. Protocol for first contact was clear: notify Earth Command immediately and wait for instructions. But the damaged vessel's trajectory calculations were already appearing on her screen, and her stomach tightened. At their current course and speed, they'd collide with the Tau Ceti colony's main settlement in less than 48 hours. Earth Command would take at least 72 hours to respond. "Computer, open a channel," she said, straightening her worn station uniform. "All frequencies, Universal Translator engaged. Warning: this action violates Protocol 7B of the Deep Space Monitoring Directive. Noted, do it anyway." The computer hummed, and Sarah took a deep breath. "This is Science Officer Sarah Foster of Earth Deep Space Monitoring Station Theta 9. Unknown vessel, you are on collision course with a civilian settlement. Please respond." Seconds ticked by, then minutes. Sarah was about to repeat her message when her screens flickered, and a voice unlike anything she'd ever heard filled the room. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, harmonics layering upon harmonics. "We hear you, Sarah Foster of Earth." The holographic display shifted, and Sarah found herself looking at a being that made her question everything she knew about biological possibility. It appeared to be made of crystalline structures that shifted and flowed like liquid, with multiple pairs of eyes that glowed with an inner intelligence. What she assumed was its head was crowned with structures that resembled coral, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "I am High Commander Zixtol of the Arcanian Collective," the being continued, its translation carrying emotions Sarah could feel in her bones. "Our vessel is critically damaged. We require immediate assistance." Sarah's training kicked in. "I can see you've sustained heavy damage. What happened?" "We were attacked," Zixtol replied, the harmonics in their voice darkening. "By those we once called allies. The hegemony believes our evolutionary path has become problematic. They sought to correct this perceived error with violence." "What kind of evolutionary path could justify attacking a ship this size?" Sarah asked, her scientist's curiosity overriding protocol. The being's crystalline structure shifted, colors rippling through it in what Sarah somehow knew was discomfort. "We are dying, Sarah Foster. Not as individuals, but as a species. Each generation, fewer of our children survive their first transformation. The hegemony believes this is natural selection, that we should accept extinction with dignity. We disagree." Sarah's screens filled with data, biological readings, genetic sequences, evolutionary charts. Even with her xenobiology background, it took her several minutes to grasp what she was seeing. The Arcanians weren't just evolving, they were transforming at a cellular level, becoming something entirely new. But the process was failing, leading to cascade failures in their reproductive cycle. "You're looking for a cure," she said softly. "That's why you're out here, isn't it?" "Yes." Zixtal's form pulsed with what might have been hope. "Our scientists believe the solution lies in genetic diversity. We have searched thousands of worlds, studied countless species, and then we found your people." Sarah's breath caught. "Humans. What's so special about us?" "Your adaptability is unprecedented. Your species has survived multiple near-extinction events, evolved to thrive in countless environments, and your genetic code." The being's excitement was palpable. "It contains solutions we never imagined possible." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared through her station. "Multiple vessels detected," the computer announced, matching energy signatures to the damaged sections of the Arcanian vessel. "The hegemony," Zixtal's voice carried equal parts fear and resignation. "They have followed us." "Sarah Foster, I must be direct. We need sanctuary. More than that, we need humanity's help. Without it, my people will be extinct within 3 generations." Sarah's mind raced. The approaching ships would arrive before Earth Command could respond. Her decision now could affect not just one alien species, but humanity's first major interaction with galactic civilization. Protocol said to wait, to let the proper authorities handle it. But Sarah hadn't spent her life studying the stars to turn away when the universe finally reached back. "Computer, send an emergency broadcast to Tau Ceti colony. Alert them about our guests." She turned back to Zixtal's image. "I'm going to help you change course to avoid the colony. Then we're going to have a long talk about exactly what kind of help your people need." The crystalline being's structure bloomed with colors Sarah had no names for. "The hegemony will not approve. They will see this as contamination of natural order." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Well, then they really don't understand humans. We've been contaminating natural order since we first climbed down from the trees. Sometimes the best solutions come from breaking a few rules." As she began calculating new trajectories for the massive alien vessel, Sarah realized her simple monitoring job had just become the front line of humanity's first interstellar diplomatic crisis, and possibly their first interstellar war. She wouldn't have it any other way. Defiance. The Tau Ceti colony wasn't built to house 3,000 beings, let alone ones that seemed to defy the basic laws of biology. Sarah watched from the colony's operations center as the massive Arcanian vessel settled into orbit, its crystalline surface reflecting the star's light in mesmerizing patterns. "You've started an interstellar incident," Governor Chen said beside her, his voice tight with stress. "Earth Command is furious." "Earth Command isn't here," Sarah replied, checking the latest data streams from their new guests, "and they wouldn't have responded in time anyway." The governor pinched the bridge of his nose. "The hegemony ships are holding position at the system's edge. Their message was emphatic. They're demanding we turn over the Arcanians." "Not going to happen." Sarah turned to face him. "Have you seen the medical data? What's happening to their children?" Before Chen could respond, the operations center's doors slid open. High Commander Zixtal entered, their crystalline form somehow more impressive in person. They were accompanied by another Arcanian, smaller but more intricately patterned. "This is Valon, our chief geneticist," Zixtal introduced. The smaller Arcanian's surface rippled in what Sarah had learned was their version of a greeting. "Your colony's generosity is appreciated," Valon's harmonics carried warmth. "But we must act quickly. The hegemony's patience is not infinite." Sarah led them to the main display, where human and Arcanian genetic sequences floated side by side. "Tell me more about these transformations your people undergo. Why are they failing?" Valon's patterns shifted to deeper hues. "Our species evolves not through generations, but through metamorphosis. Each Arcanian undergoes 3 major transformations in their lifetime, becoming more complex, more connected to our collective consciousness. But for the past century, fewer children survive their first change. Those who do often emerge wrong." The display filled with images that made Sarah's heart ache. Young Arcanians, their crystalline forms cracked and malformed. Some had simply shattered during the process, their consciousness lost forever. Our scientists believe it's because we've become too specialized, Zixtal added. Our genetic code is too rigid, too perfect. We need chaos. And that's where humans come in, Sarah finished. We're walking chaos factories. Your species has survived situations that should have been extinction events, Valon agreed. Your genetic code contains redundancies, adaptations, even viral fragments that you've incorporated and turned to your advantage. It's beautiful in its own wild way. A new alarm cut through their discussion. Hegemony vessels are moving, the colony's AI announced. They're taking up attack positions. Governor Chen swore softly. They wouldn't attack a civilian colony, would they? They believe they're preventing a catastrophe. Zixtal's voice carried ancient sadness. To them, allowing us to alter our evolution with outside help is worse than extinction. Sarah's mind raced. They needed time, but more than that, they needed a way to prove to the hegemony that this was the right path. An idea began to form. Valon, she turned to the geneticist. How quickly could you perform a controlled transformation using human genetic material? The Arcanian's patterns swelled with surprise. You're not suggesting. I am. Use me. If we can demonstrate a successful transformation enhanced by human adaptability. Absolutely not, Governor Chen interjected. It's too dangerous. We don't even know if you'd survive. The governor is correct, Zixtal agreed. The process could kill you. And even if it succeeded, you would be forever changed. Sarah looked out at the Arcanian ship, then at the approaching hegemony vessels. Sometimes the biggest discoveries require the biggest risks. You said humans are adaptable. Let me prove it. Valon's surface rippled with complex emotions. It would need to be modified, controlled. We've never attempted this with a non-Arcanian species. But it could work. Theoretically, your genetic structure is remarkably compatible. But Sarah Foster, you must understand, this would not be temporary. You would become something new, neither fully human nor fully Arcanian. Sarah thought of her lonely outpost, of years spent watching the stars and dreaming of what lay beyond. Good. The universe needs more in-betweens, more bridges. The colony's sensors blared again. The hegemony ships were charging weapons. We're out of time, Governor Chen announced. They're demanding our answer. Sarah straightened her uniform. Give them their answer. Tell them we're about to show them why evolution isn't just about survival of the fittest. It's about adaptation, cooperation, and sometimes taking a leap into the unknown. She turned to Valon. How soon can we begin? The Arcanian's patterns shifted to colors Sarah had never seen before. We can prepare immediately. But Sarah Foster, once we start. There's no going back, she finished. Good. I've spent my whole life playing it safe, following protocols. Time to break a few. As they rushed to the medical bay, Sarah caught her reflection in a window. She wondered if it would be the last time she saw herself as purely human. Somehow, the thought didn't frighten her as much as it should. The universe was about to learn an important lesson about humanity. When pushed to the edge, they didn't just survive, they evolved. And sometimes, they helped others evolve too. Metamorphosis. The Arcanian medical chamber was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Crystalline structures pulsed with bioluminescent energy, and what looked like living liquid metal flowed through transparent conduits. She lay in a reclined position, surrounded by equipment that seemed to breathe. The process will take approximately 6 Earth hours, Valon explained, their form shifting nervously. We've modified it significantly to accommodate your biology, but you still don't know if it will work, Sarah finished. She watched as Arcanian medical technicians attached sensor nodes to her body. Each one felt cool against her skin, like mint on a winter day. The hegemony fleet has increased to 7 vessels, the colony's AI announced. They're demanding communication. Put them through. Governor Chen's voice came from the observation room above. Let them see what we're doing. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being that made the Arcanians look positively normal. The hegemony representative appeared to be composed of pure energy contained within an environmental suit, its voice crackling with barely contained fury. This is Overseer HFY of the Galactic hegemony. You commit an abomination against the natural order. Cease this procedure immediately. Sarah turned her head to face the screen. Funny thing about natural order, it's not always as rigid as you think. Evolution isn't just about survival. It's about adaptation, change, finding new ways forward. Your species is too young to understand the consequences of what you attempt. HFY's energy form pulsed with anger. The Arcanian evolutionary path must end. It is inevitable. Nothing's inevitable, Sarah replied. She nodded to Valon. Begin the procedure. The chamber hummed to life. The liquid metal in the conduits began to flow faster, taking on a golden hue. Valon's patterns shifted rapidly as they manipulated controls Sarah couldn't begin to understand. First phase initiating, Valon announced. Genetic restructuring begins now. The sensation started subtly, a tingling in Sarah's extremities, like limbs waking up from sleep. Then came the heat, spreading from her core outward. She gritted her teeth, refusing to cry out as her very cells began to change. Vital signs elevated but stable, one of the technicians reported. Genetic absorption proceeding at expected rates. Through increasingly blurry vision, Sarah saw the hegemony observer's form flare with outrage. You corrupt your own form willingly. This is madness. This is adaptation, Sarah managed between gasps. The heat had become intense now, and she could see her skin beginning to take on a crystalline sheen. Sometimes, the best path forward is through change. Second phase beginning, Valon announced. Cellular reconstruction accelerating. The pain hit then, real pain, as Sarah's body began to transform at the molecular level. She couldn't hold back the scream this time. Through the haze of agony, she heard alarms blaring. Hegemony vessels are powering weapons, the colony AI warned. If we cannot stop this abomination, we will cleanse it, HFY declared. Your entire colony will be purified. You'll have to go through us first. A new voice cut in. High Commander Zixtal's image appeared, their massive ship moving to position itself between the colony and the hegemony fleet. We may be dying, but we can still fight. Sarah barely registered the exchange. Her world had narrowed to the sensation of her body rebuilding itself. She could feel new awareness blooming in her mind, new ways of perceiving reality itself. The pain began to fade, replaced by something else, a sense of connection, of being part of something larger. Final phase initiating, Valon's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Neural integration beginning. Sarah's consciousness expanded. Suddenly she could feel the colony's systems, the Arcanian ship's vast networks, even the faint signatures of the hegemony vessels. More than that, she could feel the Arcanian collective consciousness, that hopes and fears and dreams, welcoming her like a long-lost child. Remarkable, Valon breathed. The integration is perfect, better than we could have hoped. Sarah opened her eyes, all of them. Her body had transformed into a hybrid form, crystalline structures flowing seamlessly into human flesh, patterns of light dancing across her surface. She sat up, marveling at how natural it felt. Impossible. HFY's energy form fluctuated with shock. The human should have died. This level of adaptation is exactly what we were hoping for, Sarah replied, her voice carrying new harmonics that resonated through the chamber. Your mistake was thinking evolution only works one way. Sometimes the best path forward is creating something entirely new. She stood, her new form catching the light in ways that made the Arcanian medical staff pulse with joy. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel the fear and uncertainty radiating from the hegemony ships. You can destroy this colony, she continued, facing HFY's image. You can kill us all, But you can't stop change. It's coming, whether you want it or not. The question is, will you be part of it, or will you be left behind? The chamber fell silent. Sarah could feel the weight of the moment, the countless lives hanging in the balance. She reached out with her new senses, touching the minds of both Arcanians and humans in the colony, feeling their unity, their determination. Finally, Engsthal spoke. The hegemony must consider these developments. This is unprecedented. Everything worth doing usually is, Sarah replied. She turned to Valon, her patterns shifting with newfound confidence. Now, shall we begin saving your children? As the hegemony ships withdrew to a safe distance, Sarah felt something she hadn't expected: hope. Not just for the Arcanians or humanity, but for all species who dared to challenge the boundaries of what was possible. The universe was changing, and thanks to one human's courage to leap into the unknown, it would never be the same. Evolution's edge. 3 weeks after Sarah's transformation, the Tau Ceti colony had become an interstellar genetic research center. The main laboratory hummed with activity as Sarah, her crystalline human hybrid form flowing gracefully between workstations, analyzed the latest test results. The integration rate is improving, she announced, her harmonics carrying excitement. 87% success in the latest batch of simulations. Valon's patterns rippled with joy. Your human perspective has revolutionized our approach. We never considered using viral vectors as carriers for the adaptive sequences. Sometimes the most dangerous things can become tools for survival, Sarah replied, remembering her old biology lectures. Humans learned that lesson the hard way over millions of years. Their work was interrupted by a priority alert. Governor Chen's hologram materialized in the lab. We've got a situation. A hegemony diplomatic vessel just entered the system. They're requesting permission to land. Sarah exchanged glances with Valon, their patterns synchronizing in concern. After 3 weeks of silence, what changed? Unknown, Chen replied, but they're broadcasting an emergency signal, claiming they have children aboard, sick children. Sarah's new senses tingled with suspicion. How many? 12. All apparently in critical condition. Chen's hologram flickered. They're requesting our help specifically. Yours, Sarah. The implications hit her like a wave. The hegemony, who had been ready to destroy them all to prevent genetic contamination, was now bringing their children to them for help. Either this was a trap, or they're desperate. Valon finished her thought, their connection allowing for easy sharing of ideas. Their own children must be showing signs of similar degradation. Sarah's patterns shifted thoughtfully. No species exists in isolation. If the Arcanians are experiencing evolutionary crisis, others might be too, Valon agreed. The hegemony's insistence on pure evolution may be causing more harm than they realize. Sarah made her decision. Tell them they can land, but we set the terms. The hegemony vessel was smaller than their warships, clearly designed for speed rather than combat. As it touched down in the colony's main landing bay, Sarah stood waiting, flanked by both Arcanian and human security teams. Her transformed body thrummed with nervous energy. The ship's doors opened with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. The first figure to emerge was familiar. Overseer Engsthal, that energy form notably dimmer than during their last encounter. Behind them came a procession that made Sarah's heart ache. The children, each contained in separate environmental fields, were barely holding their energy forms together. Their normally brilliant signatures flickered like dying stars. You understand, Engsthal spoke, their voice lacking its former arrogance, that by coming here, we risked everything. If the other hegemony councils learn of this, they'll learn eventually, Sarah replied. The question is whether you're ready to accept that evolution isn't just about preserving what is, but discovering what could be. The children were rushed to the medical bay, where Sarah and Valon had already prepared specialized treatment chambers. Initial scans confirmed their fears that hegemony's energy-based biology was showing signs of the same kind of breakdown that plagued the Arcanians. Your insistence on genetic purity, Sarah explained as they worked, has backed you into an evolutionary dead end. Without the introduction of new traits, new adaptations, species become vulnerable to even minor changes in their environment. Our way has preserved us for millions of years, Engsafel protested, but weakly. And now it's killing you. Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. Look at your children. Really look at them. Is preserving the old way worth their lives? Over the next 72 hours, Sarah and her team worked tirelessly. They applied the techniques developed for the Alcanians, modified for energy-based life forms. Sarah's unique hybrid perspective proved invaluable, allowing her to see connections others missed. Their energy signatures are stabilizing, she announced finally, exhausted but triumphant. The adaptive sequences are taking hold. The transformation in the children was subtle but unmistakable. Their energy forms became more dynamic, more resilient. They weren't just surviving, they were evolving, finding new ways to exist. Engsafel watched in wonder as their children played, their forms now stable and bright. We were wrong, they admitted finally, about so many things. The universe is too vast, too complex for any one species to have all the answers, Sarah replied. That's why we need each other. Every perspective, every adaptation, every strange new combination adds to the whole. The news spread quickly. More ships arrived, not just hegemony vessels now, but others from across the galaxy. Species facing their own evolutionary challenges, seeking hope in the hybrid science being developed at Tau Ceti. Sarah stood at the colony's observation deck, watching the growing fleet of avian vessels in orbit. Her transformed body gleamed in the starlight, a living symbol of what was possible when barriers were broken. They're calling it a foster protocol, Valen said, joining her at the window. Your willingness to change yourself to help others has become legendary. Sarah's patterns shifted with embarrassment. I just did what seemed right at the time. I never expected to become the catalyst for a galactic revolution in evolutionary theory. Valen's patterns sparkled with amusement. Sometimes the greatest changes come from the smallest choices. Together, they watched as another ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, its design unlike anything they'd seen before. Another species seeking answers, hoping to find a way forward. You know, Sarah said thoughtfully, Earth's scientific community is going to have a field day with all this, assuming they don't have collective heart attacks first. Perhaps, Valen replied, it's time for them to evolve too. Sarah laughed, the sound carrying harmonics that would have been impossible for her human form. The universe, she had learned, was full of possibilities. You just had to be willing to change to see them. Revolution of forms. The Earth delegation's arrival at Tau Ceti colony was exactly as chaotic as Sarah had predicted. 6 months after her transformation, she stood in the diplomatic chamber, her crystalline human hybrid form drawing stunned stares from the representatives of humanity's various nations and scientific institutions. Impossible, breathed Dr. Helena Martinez, Earth's leading xenobiologist. The genetic restructuring alone should have killed me. Sarah's harmonics carried amusement. That's what everyone said. Sometimes impossible just means we haven't figured out how yet. The chamber was packed with delegates from across known space. Arcanians, their crystalline forms shimmering with excitement. Hegemony energy beings, their children now stable and evolving in new ways. And dozens of other species, each drawn by the promise of the Foster Protocol. Admiral Chen, the highest-ranking Earth military official present, cleared his throat. While the scientific implications are extraordinary, we have serious concerns about security. The possibility of hostile species using this technology is precisely why we need to understand it better, Sarah interrupted. Her patterns shifted to display data streams directly from her hybrid consciousness. Look at what we've already learned. The chamber's holographic systems activated, filling the air with genetic sequences and evolutionary charts. Sarah moved through them with practiced ease, her transformed body acting as both presenter and presentation. Every species faces evolutionary challenges, she explained. The Arcanians were just the first to admit it. The hegemony's children were next. Now we're seeing similar patterns across the galaxy, dead ends in evolution that can only be overcome through controlled adaptation and cooperation. But to alter human beings at such a fundamental level, protested another delegate. To change what we are, Sarah's voice resonated with conviction, is adaptable. It's our greatest strength. Throughout Earth's history, humans have survived by changing, by taking the best of what we encounter and making it part of ourselves. This is no different. Vylon stepped forward, their patterns aligning with Sarah's in a display of unity. We've refined the process significantly. The risks are minimal now, and the benefits. They gestured to a group of transformed children playing in an adjacent chamber, their hybrid forms showing characteristics of multiple species while maintaining their individual identities. The benefits are beyond calculation, finished Enxafol, their energy form pulsing with newfound humility. Our children are thriving. Species that were on the brink of extinction are finding new paths forward, and it all started because one human was willing to take a leap into the unknown. Dr. Martinez approached Sarah, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial shock. The neural integration, you can actually share consciousness with other species. Sarah's patterns rippled with joy at the genuine interest. Not just share, enhance. Each transformation creates new neural pathways, new ways of understanding reality. We're not losing what we are, we're gaining what we could be. The demonstration that followed left even the most skeptical delegates speechless. Sarah connected with the colony's systems, showing how her hybrid form could interface with technology in ways pure humans never could. She shared consciousness briefly with Vylon, allowing the Earth scientist to witness firsthand the depth of understanding possible between species. And this is just the beginning, she explained. Each new species that joins the protocol brings new insights, new possibilities. We're creating something that's never existed before, a true synthesis of life forms. But what about those who don't want to change? Admiral Chen asked. What about preserving pure human culture? Nobody is being forced to transform, Sarah assured him. This isn't about replacing what we are. It's about offering new choices, new paths forward. Some will choose to remain as they are, and that's perfectly fine. Diversity in all its forms makes us stronger. A commotion at the chamber's entrance drew everyone's attention. A new delegation had arrived, representatives from a species so different from anything previously encountered that their very presence seemed to bend reality. The Quantum Collective, Vylon explained to the stunned Earth delegates. They exist partially outside our normal space-time. They've come to learn and to teach. Sarah stepped forward to greet them, her hybrid form automatically adjusting to perceive their strange existence. Welcome to Tau Ceti, she said, her harmonics reaching across dimensional boundaries. We have much to share with each other. As the impossible beings communicated with the assembled delegates, Sarah felt a profound sense of rightness. This was what humanity had been preparing for all along, not just reaching the stars, but becoming something new among them. You see, she said to Dr. Martinez, who was furiously taking notes, evolution isn't just about survival anymore. It's about choice, about seeing all the possibilities and having the courage to explore them. The Earth delegation would debate for weeks, but Sarah knew the outcome was already certain. Humanity couldn't resist the call of the unknown, the chance to become more than they were. It was, after all, what they had always done best. Besides, she added, her patterns shifting with mischief, wait until they see what happens when we introduce art to the equation. Hybrid consciousness creates some really interesting poetry. The chamber filled with laughter, human, Arcanian, hegemony, and a dozen other species, each unique, each valuable, each part of the greatest evolutionary experiment the galaxy had ever seen. The revolution of forms had begun, and there was no turning back. Legacy of change. 10 years after Sarah Foster first stepped into an Arcanian transformation chamber, the Tau Ceti colony had become unrecognizable. What was once a remote human outpost had evolved into the Convergence, the galaxy's premier center for evolutionary science and interspecies cooperation. Sarah stood in her favorite observation dome, her hybrid form now perfectly natural after a decade of existence. The view before her would have been incomprehensible to her former human self: beings of crystal, energy, quantum states, and dozens of other forms all moving in harmony through structures that adapted to their various needs. "Still watching the sunrise?" Valon asked, joining her. After 10 years of partnership, their patterns synchronized automatically, sharing thoughts and emotions with effortless grace. "Every morning," Sarah replied. "It reminds me of how far we've come." Below them, the latest group of volunteers prepare for transformation. Humans, Arcanians, Hegemony, and others, all choosing to become something new. The Foster Protocol had evolved far beyond its original purpose of saving dying species. It had become a bridge between worlds, a way to share not just genetics but understanding. "The new Earth Embassy opens today," Valon observed. Another step forward. Sarah's patterns shifted with amusement. Only took them a decade to officially recognize what we're doing here. Though I suppose I can't blame them for being cautious. We did basically rewrite the book on what it means to be alive. A gentle chime announced another arrival. Enxthal appeared, that energy form now streaked with patterns that would have been impossible in their original state. The Quantum Collective's latest calculations are ready for review. They believe they found a way to stabilize transformations across 11 dimensions. "Just 11?" Sarah teased. "They're getting conservative in their old age." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. The colony's AI, itself now a hybrid consciousness, materialized beside them. "Priority signal from deep space," it announced. "We're detecting a new species. Their ships appear to be living tissue." Sarah's interest peaked immediately. Even after 10 years, the universe kept surprising them. "First contact protocols." "Already initiated," the AI confirmed. "But there's more. They're broadcasting a distress signal. Their biological ships are showing signs of cellular degradation. They're dying." Sarah exchanged looks with her companions. A decade ago, such a situation would have been a crisis. Now it was Tuesday. "Prepare the welcome center," she instructed, "and alert the xenobiology team. Looks like we're about to add another chapter to the protocol." As they moved to action, Sarah reflected on how routine the extraordinary had become. The Convergence now hosted over 50 species, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities to the collective knowledge. The Foster Protocol had expanded far beyond genetic transformation. It had become a philosophy of mutual growth and adaptation. The new arrivals proved to be fascinating. A species that had evolved to merge completely with their technology, becoming living ships that traverse the stars. Their degradation was caused by their inability to adapt to changing cosmic radiation, a problem that the Convergence was uniquely qualified to solve. "It's remarkable," Dr. Martinez observed, now a permanent resident of the Convergence and herself partially transformed. "Each new species teaches us something we never even thought to question. Did you know their ships dream?" Sarah watched as the biological vessels docked with the Convergence's adaptive harbors. "The universe is more amazing than we could have imagined, and we're just scratching the surface." That evening, Sarah attended the Earth Embassy opening ceremony. The contrast between the traditional human diplomats and the transformed beings of the Convergence couldn't have been starker. Yet, there was no longer any fear in the humans' eyes, only curiosity and anticipation. 10 years ago, I was just a lonely scientist at a monitoring station. Sarah addressed the gathered crowd, her harmonics carrying to all forms of consciousness present. "I made a choice that seemed impossible at the time, to become something new, something that had never existed before." Her patterns shifted to display images of the Convergence's history, the first transformations, the arrival of new species, the breakthroughs and setbacks, the countless lives changed and saved. But the real transformation wasn't physical. It was in how we think about ourselves and our place in the universe. We learned that evolution isn't just about competition, it's about cooperation, about finding new ways to adapt and grow together. She gestured to the assembled beings, each unique, each valuable. Look around you. This is humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, not the protocol itself, but the courage to take that first step into the unknown. To say yes when the universe offers us a chance to become more than we are. As if to emphasize her point, alarms began chiming. Another ship approaching, another species seeking the Convergence's help. Sarah smiled, her patterns shifting with anticipation. And we're not done yet, she continued. Every day brings new challenges, new opportunities to evolve. The only question is, who's ready to take the next leap with us? The response was immediate, a chorus of consciousness from across the spectrum of existence, each eager to continue the journey of discovery. Later, alone in her quarters, Sarah accessed her old personal logs, her human voice sounding strange now, discussing routine maintenance tasks and loneliness. The woman in those recordings could never have imagined what she would become, what she would help create. Personal log, final entry, she recorded, her harmonics rich with emotion. 10 years ago, I thought I was sacrificing my humanity to save another species. Instead, I found out what humanity truly means: the courage to change, the wisdom to learn, and the heart to reach out to others across the vast distances between stars and forms of life. She paused, watching the streams of beings moving through the convergence below, each one a testament to the power of choice and change. We're all evolving all the time. The only question is whether we choose to guide that evolution with wisdom and compassion, or let fear hold us back. I chose to leap into the unknown, and I'm still leaping, still learning, still becoming. Sarah closed the log and opened herself to the Convergence's collective consciousness, feeling the countless minds and forms that now called this place home. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and they were just beginning to understand how to explore it together. The next morning, as always, she watched the sunrise, no longer as a human or an Arcanian or any single form of life, but as something gloriously, impossibly new. And in the light of that new day, she saw not an ending, but an endless series of beginnings, each one full of possibility. The revolution she had started would continue, evolving as it spread across the stars, carried by beings who dared to dream of becoming more than they were. It was humanity's greatest gift to the universe, the courage to change, and the wisdom to do it together.